Hi, writer friends. Welcome back to Creative Momentum's interview series where writers and healers offer perspective on the creative process. I'm your host, Meg Hyertz. I'm the author of Tarot for Beginners and the founder of Creative Momentum, where we help writers free their voice, nourish their practice, and finish their project. I am so happy to be joined today by Ashley Yang-Thompson. Ash has been a performance artist since the day she was ruthlessly shoved out of the safety of her mother's womb. Stillworm from Bateau Press 2025 is her first full-length book. Welcome, Ash.
Thank you for having me.
So, Stillworm is, I quote, the highly unprofessional pedagogical philosophy of Ash Yang-Thompson, which is in a perfectual state of flux because life resists comprehension, or I do, I undo, I redo in homage to my struggle by Carl Ove Nascard. And it proudly displays the seal of Lesh Walrus University. Um, would you please read us the incantation on page 23?
My pleasure. One day you wake up and everything is interesting. You run past your neighbor's house for the 100th time. You look up at the trees that have always been there, and what you see delights you. The world appears as if it is breathing, and you are woven into that aliveness. You are alert, you are paying attention, and everything sings along with the song that is always going on, the tune that carried you into being. You read your favorite magazine while eating breakfast. You overhear a conversation at the coffee shop. You look at the contents of your trash as if they are clues planted for you by the benevolent puppet master at large. You've glimpsed the thread you've been following all along, and it's terribly exciting. Your pangs of hunger make you laugh. Your exhaustion makes you gentle. You ask the man at the register of your local Chinese dollar store why hanging an eggplant on the front door brings good luck, and he delivers the line, "What you believe becomes true for you." This is an ordinary day. Nothing momentous has happened to you. You didn't just win an award, or land your dream job, or make a pile of dough. You didn't get whisked away by a beautiful and inspiring stranger. Nobody noticed your peculiar brand of genius. You didn't get a letter from a friend, or make peace with your mother, or have a breakthrough at work. Nothing interesting is happening. But today, your rough edges are rounded. You've already been forgiven. You give a happiness that spreads, and all around the world glows.
It's beautiful. Thank you. So, first things first, why is making art like pooping?
For me, I cannot contrive the art. It has to be made inadvertently it has to drop out of me the way poop drops out of me. And there's a certain extent to which we could facilitate a beautiful bowel movement. We can eat relatively healthy. We can get to know our body, its likes and dislikes. Mine doesn't like milk, dairy milk, and reduce our stress, or I don't know. But ultimately, You could do all the things and still be constipated. Happened to me. Or you could eat like shit and have beautiful bowel movements. And so I think for art, though, it is important. It is important to pay attention to what I ingest in my artistic process because Coleridge calls it the internal cut up machine that's happening inside here. And I want the ingredients to be top quality. So I pay attention to what I read. I don't read trash if I can help it. But trash can become a treasure. That's a
True.
Zen saying. So really, I don't know. I really don't know. And that's the essence of the whole bowel situation. Like, we don't really know how it works and how these cells are doing what they're doing. We can study it, but it's this mysterious process that recycles everything I've ever experienced. In other words, everything I'm experiencing is my research for the work that I'm doing.
Mm.
And everything I'm eating is going to be composted by my body.
Yeah, it can
One
process
hopes.
everything. And yeah, it's mysterious. And I also appreciate how you write about the process as amoral. Um, I guess we can evaluate poop as good or bad, but typically it's an amoral process that is more of a need and a natural thing that's going to happen. Um, could you tell us about the book's title?
Still wormed. It was originally going to be titled My Anus. That
Oh,
was the
I didn't know that.
the I have the My Anus version somewhere on my bookshelf. But yeah, anyways, so that's why it says in homage to Karl no Ove Nosgard
Mm,
because and this cover is sort of a pastiche of the whole young up and coming hip writer. There's a lot of black and white photos where the writers look kind of chic, like in Eileen Miles's Chelsea Girls or How to Write an Autobiographical Novel and such, and of course the My Struggle series. And then I went on a 1 month silent retreat and realized that I could not have this picture of my face next to the words my anus in a world, where I can't control how people are going to
yeah.
perceive me. To me, it's funny, but I, my ex pointed out that men will look at it and then immediately sexualize me, or it could be an act of self-objectification. And, I could rebel against that, and I have many times in my life, but I'm not really at the place where I want to deal with that at the moment.
Mm.
And I love worms. I did a long-term zine collaboration with Nia Musiba called Worm Slut. And prior to that, Worm House that came out every week. And that's kind of my process.
Mm.
I write periodically. And it comes from an Ubermensch quote. Nietzsche says, "You have gone from worm to man, but much of you is still worm." And I thought, I like worms, and I would like to explore this still worm part, especially in my 20s when I was so lost and wondering what the heck I was doing, not building a real career and making these constipated pebble zines filled with fart jokes and irreverent humor that really resisted any sort of monetization and also worms are the great composters.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid of the dark to
Mm,
burrow into that
mm,
darkness.
mm. The text and image art in this book really evokes the mood of the worm way, as you call it, burrowing into dirt and dirtiness, fleshy materiality, that compost aesthetic that embraces both the shit and the colorful flowers that grow out of it. Um, the images are really bodily. There's blood, a giant pimple, lots of enthusiastic poop cartoons, a health mound, a knee boob, rainbow colors everywhere, depressed and anxious thoughts that are often quite humorous. Um, and like it feels like it's really getting into like the dirt of life and that these rainbows are and positive affirmations are sprouting out of it. Um, here's one, one image. And sexual and societal violence is often like hovering just outside or breaking in to a number of the pieces. Um, and there's an abundance of these like sincerely liberating proclamations, such as permission to be scattered and snarled, and nothing that breathes air is alone in the world. Um, I recently interviewed Cindy Shearer, a text and image artist, and she uses text and image to see more deeply into a subject, to find out what's there. Um, so I was curious what impulse or impulses you follow when you're making your text and image art.
I was actually, I'm going to dodge this question a little bit by talking about another artist, but I have William Blake in my backpack. And William Blake's poetry originally looked like this. They were engravings. And in the introduction, Jeffrey Keane says that he basically made these etchings and he knew that poetry and design are the same thing in different forms, and he possessed the originality and craftsmanship needed for the practice of both, separately or simultaneously. He was not content, therefore, to see his poems only in written form or in ordinary print, as were his earlier poetical sketches. He wished to have them clothed in design and color so that each poem picture formed an artistic whole. And for me, I have always fluctuated between different mediums because there's something alive and the form is just what is readily available to me. And I also find that I start resisting certain forms once I become too avaristic in that medium. If I get too many prizes or something, I start to resist the form because there's some deeper part of me that knows my integrity has been compromised and that blocks my creative force. And so I go to a medium like writing after winning some painting prizes and to where nobody knows me and I'm a nobody. And I mean, I'm a nobody in painting too, don't get me wrong. But even the slightest suggestion of becoming a somebody can really deaden the energy of my practice. And it's just, it keeps the play instinct alive. And it's fun to see words look completely different, whether they're hand drawn
Mm.
or seen through this monotone, monotonous E.B. Garamond font, or whether they're in the texting font, or whether they're in Comic Sans, or whether it's typed on a typewriter, even, and the rhythm too of typing on a typewriter changes what's written.
Mm.
And I often find I'm kind of shocked by the way words look sometimes when I paint them, and I'm wondering, is that really how it's spelled? That can't be spelled right. And
I love that exploration of kind of
it's like adding
following.
melody to lyrics,
Mm,
I'd say,
hmm.
the form.
Yeah, that's kind of synesthetic that the melody is informed by the shape a bit of the shape of the text, the shape of, like in this case, and in a lot of the images, there's like the text is following a curvature of the image. Um, let's let's talk about the make bad art assignment in your Flesh Walrus University syllabus. Um, throughout the book, you ask who gets to decide what is good or bad, beautiful, ugly, brilliant, or dumb. And you write about your body and art being sexualized and censored because of those projected, imposed fantasies. I'd like to read one paragraph. Um, I felt disassociated from the content of my work. The shamelessness expressed in my art was not, I felt, connected to reality. As Louise Bourgeois wrote, in real life, I identify with the victim. In my art, I am the murderer. Art was the sphere where I made the rules, where my own intentions and perspectives reigned, a thoroughly imagined alternate universe where there was nothing inherently weird or even immodest about taking off all my clothes and peeing on somebody's foot in order to make a point about colonialism. And in your Flesh Walrus University syllabus, you list 27 categories in which bad art will be celebrated. The list includes most alarming use of color and so different. Could you please speak to the personal and or pedagogical and or societal importance of celebrating bad art, as well as what pieces of bad art currently bring you joy?
I think it's important to really question who decides what's bad and who decides what's dumb. And it's usually this inner critic voice, another deadening and oppressive force to anybody trying to make art. And the bad art assignment is a playful way to just meet that voice head on and really challenge why we think our work is bad, what we think is bad. And it came from an assignment that I received in college by my professor, Craig Hill, who became my first one of my first mentors. And I'm very indebted to him, Craig Hill. He gave us the assignment to make 30 paintings in 30 days. And at the time, I was a perfectionist. I still am a recovering perfectionist. So it was a horrifying prospect because I would spend, uh, for me, my standard was I had to spend at least 3 times as much time as any other student on each piece. And they were very detailed paintings that I was making, and there was no way I could do 30 paintings using that painstaking, detailed approach in 30 days. And by the night before, at midnight, and the work was due at 11 a.m. the next day, I still had 7 paintings to go. And he gave us a list of different paintings, and one of them was just make a bad painting. And for the next 7 paintings, I just made them all bad paintings. And it was the most fun I'd had making art since I was a kid, because I just didn't have time to overthink it and to turn it into a research paper. A lot of my paintings are illustrated research papers, and I love that. That's great too. But it's important to, as Susan Rethers says, whom I quote extensively in the book, play profound and have fun. Because why are we making art if we're not having fun? It's not like it's the going to provide us with job security, let's be real.
I'm glad you brought in that quote from Susan Rethorst, because I wanted to ask about it, and then I ended up not putting it into my questions. But I think the only time that the phrase good art appears in the book is in her quote about that good art is like
Not of the
rigorous
intellect.
play. Yeah. Say that again.
Good art is not of the intellect.
Not of the intellect. Yeah. So you'll be teaching a workshop at Creative Momentum, prompting us to make bad art and poetry. What can participants expect at the workshop, and how might it benefit their practice? I mean, I think you already explained uh, the benefits of getting out of our heads, meeting the inner critic. Um, Even if for fiction writers or nonfiction writers, this might be kind of the first time that they make poetry or art. What can they expect?
I will be really good if you're a perfectionist to just smash that role for a while or let it put it aside
Mhm.
and take on a different modality and way of being. And it's permission to throw away tiresome labels like fiction, nonfiction, poetry, painting. Who cares? It all comes from the same place, I think.
Mm.
And hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. And like my bad art assignment in college, it's a short but very intense workshop. So
Mm.
you won't have time to overthink anything, and you won't have time to make anything good. And so inadvertently, perhaps something good will come.
Beautiful.
But if you make something bad, then you succeeded in the bad art class and you will win a Nobel Prize.
The perfectionists. We love those Nobel
Hmm.
Prizes.
I
Um,
have Nobel Prizes for every single one of the participants.
oh, yay. All right. That's a reason to come to the Bad Art Poetry Workshop on Sunday, March 29th from 11 to 12 Pacific. And the link is below. Come get your Nobel Prize. So Ash, you and author Jadra Johnson recently presented a wonderful performance art theory video experience called Cringe. Um, the event description reads, Cringe has become a referent for overly earnest, uncool, or passé behavior. But what if cringe vulnerability is actually the path to freedom? Um, and in the performance, you and Jadra explored many facets of cringe. And one of my favorites was the cringe of saying what you're not supposed to say, specifically in contexts where breaking the rules of politeness exposes hierarchies and rules of power and domination that norms otherwise obscure and erase. There's also this facet of cringe that celebrates tenderness and baby photos. Um, and so I'm curious in what ways cringe is an extension of stillworm, and in what ways is it a departure?
I pretty sure that most of my art falls under the category of cringe. And as a friend pointed out, on the poster for the cringe event, it says the apogee of artistic expression. So that feels a little bit not humble. uh, in Stillworm, I exploring what art do we make simply by existing and being present for our lives. And I'm still practicing that way, but I feel more present. And cringe came from a talk that Jadra and I did on abject expressionism. And that's a term I use to describe a lot of the work that I made that is very dark and self-exposing and honestly feels like a gut punch. And I don't regret that period. It was part of my, to quote Nietzsche again, exploring the voluptuousness of my own hell in order to forge my path to heaven, something like that. And I needed to know. I needed to really mine my darkest darks. I can't fully say why, but it's something like chiaroscuro, which is a Renaissance term that Caravaggio used, where he had the richest darks and it made the illumination so poignant. So I guess it was part of developing my full repertoire of human feeling and being able to use all of those tones in my compositions, whether it's writing or painting.
May I pull a tarot card for you?
I would absolutely love that.
Great. So, what is going on in your art, writing? Um, yeah, what's on your mind creatively?
Well, I'm starting this new painting series. I staged a painting right here that I'm going to make as many of these as I can of breaking news and draw from the teachings at Zen teachings and draw from my pimples and my diurnal life. And I'm also working on my next book, and I'm very excited about it. It's exploring what we talked about a little bit before the interview, where I'm always contradicting myself. And that Whitman, we contain multitudes. Do I contradict myself? So what? I contradict myself. And how part of being a deep thinker is exploring the paradox that heals.
Would you like a
So I'm
card?
on the love, not love chapter.
Oh, wonderful. Would you like a card that is just kind of reflecting what you're doing back to you, or is there anything that you're kind of working through, figuring out?
Honestly, I have the biggest questions around where to. Oh, wow. After this talk, this is exposing my hypocrisy, but I'm wondering who to publish it with because I've had a couple
Mm.
of people reach out to me and how I want to go about that. Do I want to go small press again, which allows for the most artistic freedom, and or do I want to try and have a broader audience? And but I think I should probably based on my own talk, take my own advice and finish the project first. So maybe advice on finishing the project.
All right. Tell me when to stop shuffling.
Stop.
Hermit reversed.
Oh,
The cards are
wow.
always reversed during eclipse season, and during retrograde. It's both.
That
Um,
is so, that just feels very apt.
yeah, how so?
Just that I would get a card called the Hermit right now with someone, a woman wearing a hood, because I'm in my nun archetype at the moment
Wonderful.
to speak full woo-woo.
Yeah. Yeah, this is permission to like go even deeper into the archetype. Like if you thought you were like, oh wow, I'm like maybe going like kind of extremely into this archetype. Like what if you go even farther?
Is she closing a laptop? Is that what's
Yeah.
happening in the car?
Yeah, this
That's awesome.
this is the Modern Witch Tarot, so it has a few updates. Um,
So what does it mean that it's upside down?
it it means that there's more here than you've explored thus far. Um, how deep are you into your nun archetype era?
Probably a year and a half.
How does it feel like just the beginning? Does it feel like the murky middle? Does it feel like, okay, I'm kind of getting tired of being here?
Actually, it hasn't been a year and a half. It just feels. I mean, sometimes it feels like it's been way too long, and other times it feels very, very liberating and pleasant.
Hmm.
It definitely feels stable
Mm,
and generative, and I'm really, really delighting in it, actually. I was
yeah.
thinking that today. I am just so whole. I'm
Mm,
so complete and I'm
mm,
so happy and I have so much time and energy
mm,
for my creative pursuits and for my meditation practice.
mm. Cheers to wholeness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The places where um you kind of start getting tired of it or question it um might be interesting places to kind of make art about, just to find out what's going on there. Because sometimes we do need a break. But in this case, it seems like what are these like thresholds um, that you're crossing kind of deeper and deeper into this archetype? Um, and what are your kind of like what beliefs come up about these thresholds, um, and who you are in relationship to the thresholds? Because it sounds like a really generative and regenerative space. It sounds like that's a big contrast from the voluptuous hell art. Um,
Yeah. And years of feeling stuck
mhm.
creatively, emotionally.
Yeah. There's so much wonder. The hermit has so much wonder. Um, the hermit channels the divine through their inner voice, just has wonder at existence, and is not particularly alone. They're just closing their laptop against excessive noise, um, and they might be connecting, communing with others who share similar spiritual questions. So it's not necessarily an alone thing. But yeah, just that. spirit of wonder.
It's coming to me as one in herself.
Yeah.
I could also see a computer screen reflected in the tarot card.
That's so meta. Um, yeah, enjoy the richness of that as the path for finishing the project. Would you please offer us a writing prompt or exercise?
One that immediately came to mind was get rejected every day.
Mm.
Another one that's a bit more writing specific, although I think it's good to try to get rejected every day. Say hello to somebody that you're afraid will look at you a little weird if you say hello to them. Talk to someone you're afraid to talk to. Try something that you instinctively feel that you'll be bad at or that won't come naturally to you. Approach a child. That for me is scary. I'm like, this child's gonna reject me because I don't know how to interact with children.
Children have such high standards of wonder and play.
Sometimes I give kids stickers and they're like, I don't want that.
They don't want a
And
sticker.
that's a good practice of rejection.
Mm.
So the other one is to treat something that you are dreading as a prompt for poetry. And an example of that could be a job application or some kind of writing that you have to fill out a form for the doctor or a therapist or whatever. And but treat it as poetry and
Mm.
see what comes out.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for those prompts. Thank you so much for this conversation, Ash. Friends, get the book. There's a 126 question ontological questionnaire that you do not want to miss out on, and lots more art and philosophy. So get the book, the links are below, and happy creating.